Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Shift with CJ podcast. Today, I have the honor to have a good friend right next to me, but he's not just a good friend, he's worn multiple hats. He is a great leader, he is an entrepreneur, he's a great speaker, he is really deep into psychology, performance, sports psychology, and he's worked with some of the top athletes, companies around the world teaching them how to become the best version of themselves. And today he's here in the biohacking studio to teach you how to become the best version of yourself. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Maximilian Malchiner. Did I get it right this time?
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Thank you. So Max, it,
Yes.
it's
So for this conversation, we're going to refer him as Max.
yeah. Thank
Max,
you.
welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Really, thank you. I've been now
Okay.
for 1 week in Dubai. So it's beautiful.
I'm so glad you got the time to come here for that one weekend in Dubai. Um, Max and me go back a couple of months ago. So I'll tell you a story, everyone. I first met Max online because we were looking for a great speaker for the World Biohack Summit that I organized a couple of months ago. And Max's profile was so interesting. When I looked at it, I was like, this person looks very overqualified to come over here. He's done so many things, books, he's he's trained so many people. you know First, when I got your profile, I was just like telling to one of our colleagues, will this guy come for our show? And then they're like, yeah, ask him. So you had a great presentation throughout the World Biohack Summit, and since then we've become friends. And today I have Max here for a special reason. We're going to talk about peak performance in organizations and truly what is not happening in organizations. So, Max, first, tell us, how did you get into all of this? You could have chosen everything. How many years you're doing this for?
I've been doing this for 15 years now.
15
And
years.
how did I come to this point? Yeah, this is quite interesting because I was a top manager. So I studied economics, I studied psychology, and then I became a top manager at different huge multinational companies. I was also partly owning these companies. We were active in the multimedia and interactive business. Everything which is interactivity was in Europe, let's say around 2000, a huge hype. And I
Mhm.
was leading companies. They belong to the German Telecom
Mhm.
and also to RTL, which is the leading television channel. And I was the CEO, and I had a very successful life from outside, having a great position, beautiful family, two kids, then three kids later. And then 2005, uh, I got a very special moment to experience. It was in Prague at the airport. I was standing at the airport, and it was Friday afternoon, so we had to get the last plane. And my colleague was in front of me, just running to the terminal, and I couldn't go further. So I stopped, and I had the feeling I'm paralyzed, and I didn't know what to do. I was lost. And then the crowd, and everything, I can remember so precisely each moment, each of my feelings. And then I just said, okay, either I will die or I will get the plane, but I didn't understand what happened, what is basically happening to me. And then finally, certainly we got the plane, and I sat down in the seat, and I was just looking out from the window. And the first time in my life, this question came up: why? Why do you do this? You know. So what does it mean for you to be important, to have a driver waiting for you every morning, making money, having a beautiful career, basically, and everything nice from outside, but internally, I was basically at the end of my capacity. And that was the moment. My wife is a medical doctor, so I went home and said, so I told her what happened. She looked at me and said, "Yeah, you're absolutely healthy.
Mhm.
It can't be anything." So, and they had different medical examinations. They told me that I have panic attacks, and that was the point when I've understood that. Uh, I've understood many things. First of all, that we men, we are not of iron,
Hmm.
not of steel. The second thing was that I understood that position, career, and everything is worthless when you don't feel well.
Hmm.
Okay, so we are talking not about wealth, we are talking about well-being. And the third thing, what I've experienced was that I understood at this moment what we do, um, what we do wrongly in the enterprises.
Hmm.
So what managers have to face every day, what type of chaos, what type of stress, what type of challenges, and this is too much. And that was 2005, 2008, and so on. And the situation became worse and worse. So 2012, in Germany, for example, the government has declared burnout as the national disease. Can you
Hmm.
imagine?
Wow, that's big.
2012. And so 2008, I made the decision to leave the company. Everybody was looking at me like, "Hey man, are you crazy or what? I mean, you can't get
You
it
have it all.
better, you have it all." And I said, "No, I would like to change. I would like to help people." And because I was studying psychology before, I said, "I would like to get back to this point. I would understand what they're doing wrongly and how could I help to support people to make it differently, because this, how enterprises are working now, it's absolutely disaster and a big threat for everyone."
Mhm. What did you do after you got the panic attack? So from 2005 to 2008, did you change certain behaviors or certain attributes about yourself that helped you to make that choice?
Hmm, very good question. Certainly, you try. You try
Hmm.
always, and first of all, you don't show it. So you don't talk about it. I was always very much related to sports, to fighting sports, as you that
Hmm.
we're talking about a lot. And so for me, it was a big mistake. For example, so it turned out then later, and I understood that in the last 4 years, I missed training. So between 2001, 2005, I didn't do any training because I was so much focused on work. And this is what I experience now when I'm talking to managers and talking to teams, big enterprises, asking them, the 10, 15 top leaders, asking them, so please raise your hands, who is doing regularly sports? And only one or two,
Hmm.
only one or two show up. So that was what I done. So what I did was got back to sports immediately, and then it was very interesting. It was subconscious. I didn't know that it will have a real effect on me,
Impact.
an impact, but it had. And I will tell maybe later about this, how important it is. So that was taking over control, for example, over my body to get back to normal. Then certainly yoga, meditation helped me a lot. And that was at that time, I have to tell you, because other generation for you, is
Mhm.
it normal? But I'm telling you that
It was
this time,
abnormal.
abnormal, absolutely. And people, I can remember, CG, it was like people looked at me. I went to a yoga studio. They were
Hmm.
only women, 2002, 2003, And then I had to travel a lot to New York and then other places in the world. And then one time at the Harvard Club in New York, the receptionist told me, "Go upstairs, I don't know which floor, you will find a yoga studio." I
Hmm.
went up, and there were about 80 people, only two women, only men. you know
Oh, wow.
that was the point for me. Okay, so this is something
I think the
something
people in that
important.
room were like forward thinkers, because I can imagine just about 10 years ago, if you tell a high level executive that, hey, you need yoga, they're either going to laugh in your face or
Yeah,
they're going to boycott you, not talk to you.
yeah, they would say you are sick, or what are you doing? There's a female sport or something,
Hmm.
the stupid things. So I started with yoga and with meditation, and it helped me to meet the right decision. Why? Because I became conscious about the situation. I became conscious about many things. And that was the moment, 2007. There was a moment when I met Innometrics. This is an enterprise, mm, and I've been working now for more than 15 years, because I've never expected to work with them, but I filled in a profile, a personality profile, and this profile showed me exactly what I did wrong. So all the adaptations, what I had, showed me also why I was not able to realize certain aspects of my life and so on, and slowly. And this decision-making point that was so important. If I would have stayed in this company, and then work long, I mean, uh, maybe 2012, I would have died. I
Okay.
don't know, you know. So
Wow. And good thing is you were conscious enough to understand that part. And yes, exercise, yoga, sports, martial arts, these have so much more benefits than just, losing calories. It helps your cardiovascular system, it helps your neurological system. And the thing is, for anyone who's listening, if you're a manager or a top manager, you don't need so much. The World Health Organization recommends about 150 minutes of exercise. That's like 20 to 30 minutes per day. And sometimes if you're just sitting for 8 hours a day, going for a 20-minute walk will also help. But, other things like lowering down of blood pressure, lowering down blood glucose levels, type 2 diabetes, all of these things can cause inflammation in the body. And when you're chronically rising your inflammation, that is actually contributing to aging, or your heart not being able to work well, or your mind not being able to work well, or your kidneys not being able to work well. And when this happens, you could either land up in a panic attack or into some other situations. But you mentioned something very interesting, which was burnout and this burnout disease. So for someone who's listening, I think burnout, if you haven't looked into the technical definition, could be subjective because everyone has a different kind of resilience to stress. So, can you tell us what burnout is? And yeah, let's start with that. What is burnout? And in this region, so you've worked in Europe for 15 years, what do you think? Are people in UAE also having burnouts?
I'm answering the last question
Sure.
first. Yes,
Okay.
yes, we see here many, many, many challenges, and it has a certain reason. The fast-paced working style, also this very multinational culture, which is very positive on the one side, but at the side certainly many misunderstandings, very mismanagement, and so on happens. And so this is for sure. We can talk about it maybe later. But what is burnout? Burnout basically is something that even medical doctors can diagnose easily because
Hmm.
this is a sum of different symptoms. As you said, this is very subjective. Um, what the, for me, the most important, and I think this is really the quintessence of understanding what is burnout, is to understand that burnout doesn't mean that you don't have any power more. It leads to that state, physical and mental state, but at the beginning you feel a lot of energy. You do a lot. You are not able to stop, and you want to do more and more and more, and you sacrifice yourself, and you don't realize it because it makes fun. It makes fun to you. So there are two different type of let's say how you can get to this state burned out, and this is one. For example, you having a very bad job and it makes you crazy and sick, and then you are suffering every night when you go home. You can't sleep. You hate your boss. You can't communicate. Really, you pain and so on, and then that leads certainly to a certain a type of burnout. But the other type of burnout, what I see many, many times, the top managers, is that they do too much. They can't stop. They're absolutely unable to stop. They can't breathe. They don't know about the simplest techniques
Hmm.
like breathing, for example. How can I calm down within 1 second and so on? And I would like to tell here, very important, about a study that we did in Germany with a clinic in Hamburg. And I'm working as a psychologist also with bigger teams, individuals, and with personality profiling. And they wanted to know how we could, or if we could see some elements of or characteristics for people who are burned out in general.
Hmm.
So we have tested 3,000 people, so, approximately. And what they have found is highly interesting because they led also the conversation, the psychological treatment, and all the sessions with them. And the question was, what led you to be in this burned out situation? And one common point we could define, and you won't believe what it was. This is about connection.
Lack of connection.
About connection. So,
Hmm.
three times, these people were absolutely not connected to themselves
Hmm.
for many, many years. These people lived. very slowly. So they were absolutely without partners, lonely, basically. Or these people had a toxic relationship.
Mhm.
So it is everything about connection. So once you can change this and realize this, you did a lot.
Wow, it's interesting because a lot of the times, one thing that people ignore most of the times, there will be managers that will go to the gym and maybe gym way too much or go for too many CrossFit classes or go for triathlons.
Yeah.
But one thing that a lot of people ignore is this piece of community or connection.
Mhm.
And when we look at the blue zones or people who have lived for a long time, sanitarians, 100, super sanitarians, above 100. So these are areas like Ikaria, Sardinia, Okinawa, Loma Linda. And one of the most common traits that they have is that they embrace connection and community. All of them share a special relationship with their neighbor, people who are living around them, their family, and they do things together. And that is one of the reasons why they can live for longer periods of time. It's the community and the connection. And it's so interesting because if you take in a scientific lab, if you take a human cell and you put it in a petri dish away from other cells, it's going to die faster. When you take a group of animals and you isolate one, the isolated one will die faster. And as humans as well, we have always lived to be with evolution in communities, in tribes, holding hands, hugging each other. And the more you take people away, this again would lead to burnout, would lead to things like depression, would lead to things like anxiety. And we're seeing this, we were talking about this right before that, mental health crisis has become the, talk of the town. In fact, I was reading somewhere that in 2050, 2050, 1 in 4 people will have mental health. There will be a mental health pandemic. That
Yep.
it's insane. This is like 20 or 30 years from now.
This is now the number one killer,
Mental health.
mental health issues, so managers, mental stress. So this
Okay.
is number one killer.
So when we look at organizations and we look at, let's say, you have worked with some of the big organizations all around the world and especially in Europe, do you think burnout is burnout can be one of the reasons for mental stress? Let's not call it
Mhm.
disease because it could be an extreme, but
Yeah.
mental stress. What are some of the other things that you see that causes mental stress in employees or in teams?
Look, stress is for sure one of the key factors. But mental health, this is very, very subjective. This is really something that you can assess if you look at people. You would never think, as I told you before in my story, no one would have thought, that I'm suffering or struggling with issues. So this is very subjective. What we can see is that the workload,
Mhm.
the fast pace, and the huge, and this is the key point, the huge adaptation in the behavior, what people make subconsciously, basically every day, this is what kills them
Mhm.
long term. And I'm not just formulating, I just would like to be very clear and bring the things to the point. That's why I'm saying killing, certainly. And then this, thanks God, it doesn't happen
Mhm.
that often. But basically, to certain diseases, for sure, so stress-based diseases, and the adaptation is something that makes the most with you because you lose a lot of energy.
Mhm.
And what you were talking about, highly interesting, is also, that the Harvard study, which is
Yeah.
the longest study on longevity, and says the same, that being connected to people. And this study says that if you have only one person you have been connected to very strong in your life, can save your life, basically, which
Yeah.
is crazy,
Yeah.
crazy, really. And why do people buy dogs?
For the connection.
Yeah, this
For a
is the
lot of
sense
lonely
of
people,
lack.
yeah,
Yeah,
the lack of connection and
yeah,
plus, caring for someone or someone being there with them all the time.
absolutely.
And I think the more we're entering in an age of AI, and by the way, Max sent me an AI podcast to listen to with Tom Billieu. Amazing. I finished it
It
last
is.
night.
Yeah.
And it also goes through these points that, now more and more of us are depending on technologies. Technologies can help us be productive, technologies can help us find out more about ourselves, but trying to replace connection with technology is is not probably the best way ahead. What do you think?
No, for sure not. For sure
Okay.
not.
So let's talk about connection. What can teams or companies do to build more connection within their team? Because we can talk about so many companies, and I mean, starting from smaller companies to bigger companies with maybe 5,000 or 10,000 employees, them have stationed their enterprise in such a way that they're living in different countries. Maybe they're doing remote work, and they jump on few calls on Zoom, and no one is really connected. So what can companies do to bring this connection?
Being connected doesn't mean we should be friends,
Mhm.
in the enterprise, because this is absolutely impossible. What do you need for being connected? You need trust.
Mhm.
And in companies, what we face is a huge lack of trust. So people don't have trust to each other. If you work in a bigger, very multinational environment like Dubai at the moment, for example, there to establish trust costs you a lot of energy and time,
Mhm.
because this is not so easy, because we have language barrier, we have cultural barriers, differences, and so on. When you don't see the advantage of that, so you don't see the advantage in being different, then you will face a problem, and that will be the lack of trust. So this is the first. And the second is that everybody should do the best. It means everybody should work in an environment which fits basically totally with their talents,
Mhm.
motivations, behavior. So you should be placed at the right place. And I was talking about adaptation. And the second point is being inauthentic.
Mhm.
And this inauthentic way of living makes people so sick. If you look in Dubai, also at many other places in the world. I see Dubai now, and I love to be here, and that's why I'm very, very, very engaged to support here, because I see how what I can see here now that was basically in Europe 12 years ago. The situation 12 years ago. So we are running here into a big problem, I guess, when we don't face and don't talk clearly and very, very honest about things, issues like cultural stress and so on. What I wanted to say is that being in authentic, can you imagine that we did a study with 198,000 people,
Wow.
198,000 people within a metrics. The name of the study is What's Your Genius? And they did this personality profile, and with that personality profile, we can assess 165 talents, different talents, mathematically precisely. So, and we wanted to see what makes top performers different.
Mhm.
So, if I'm taking the crowd, seeing people on the street in Dubai, and taking what makes people the real top performers different. What do you think? How many of these 165 talents were different people? They are really top performers, top achievers.
In terms of a percentage out of
Oh,
165,
how many of them?
I would say out of 165 would be 20,
20?
30, 20 to 30.
Okay. I ask him always this question, and this is so funny. Just think about it now.
Yeah,
When
everyone
you're
think about
listening,
it,
think
pause
about
it.
it. I give you 1, 2, 3 seconds, and I'm having a great news for you. None.
No way.
No, I'm telling you why. Because we all possess the same talents.
Mhm.
This is not a question of having the talent or not. But certainly, that being authentic means that you have a very high self awareness, self knowledge. And this is what makes these people, they're really highly successful, different. They have a very, very high level of self knowledge. It means that we are saying that you should know yourself above 90%. If I'm taking a normal guy in the street, maybe 30%.
Mhm.
Mid management, it has been assessed by different psychological institutes. They have self awareness, self knowledge, let's say between 50 and maybe 65, 70. Top manager, 70, but not more. You should know yourself 80 or 90% sure. So these people know themselves 90%, and they're staying always authentic. What does it mean? They would never take on a job, never accept a position or something that doesn't fit with their real
Mhm.
talents, their nature, habits, traits. So being self-aware, having a very high level of self-knowledge, and being authentic. This is the secret.
So, would you say then, like one group of people that come to my mind are like top athletes? Because top athletes, they know their talents and they are self aware enough to dedicate their life into one specific sport or one specific tournament. So, would you think that, the top athletes, they meet this criteria?
If they are Rafa Nadal,
Mhm.
who is almost a neighbor of mine, yeah, he 100% sure. Rafa Nadal could be also a golf player with less success. But we are talking about athletic performance and athletic, so physical condition, physical performance, physical talent is something different. I'm
Okay.
talking now not about cognitive issues or not about physical issues. I'm talking about mental, uh, we call it neural network, what you have in your brain. And this neural network should be, and this is established at any person in the world. Let's say when you achieve 22 years, so when you get 22 years old, then this neural network is established and won't change that much. Your behavior can change every 20, 25 years if you don't do anything. But if I'm talking about coaching, I'm talking about psychology. That's why we call it behavioral psychology, because everything what we can change at people, this is basically on the behavior level. So we can change it. Motivation change between 8 and 10 years, but very slowly, just a little bit. If you have dramatic event in your life, then certainly faster. And the talents, as I told you before, they are quite stable. But this is not about your inner self. Your inner self changes very fast. This is your self esteem. This is your role awareness. This is your self direction. What does it mean? It can be that, let's take it that way. There's a top athlete, and he's starting to work with a different trainer. And this trainer, and you can see it from the history, it happened many, many times, even to big, big, big guys, and they don't find the common language. They
Hmm.
don't. And this athlete will, will have less success and puts maybe more effort but less success
Hmm.
into the game. So what does it mean? uh, Not only your talents are important, but also the environment.
Hmm.
And this is what can change people or
The
the
environment.
environment.
Yeah.
And the environment means also people. So it means that you are all the time you are combined and related to others, and that's why this is so hardly important. And if managers, you ask me, because of the stress, enterprises face the huge problem that managers are not really authentic. They have a lot of problems. I always compare them to a hamburger, which is not a very nice. Sorry for that, but you can imagine. Just make it very
Yeah.
visual.
Yeah, we can talk about a healthy hamburger with brown
And they
bread.
had, yeah, me a veggie, yeah. So, but it's about, you have the bread, and in the middle you have meat to
Hmm.
the veggie burger, and then you have also cucumber and ketchup and mustard and everything. So they have pressure from the bottom,
Hmm.
because the employees are asking them for being responsible. Then they get pressure from above, and then in the middle they this is the person
Hmm.
basically, but the ketchup, the cucumber, and so they're just
Yeah.
going away, because this is the family, this is my private life, this is my health, because this pressure is too much.
And how do you balance that? And before you answer that, I think what you mentioned about the environment is so important. Even when we look at health and health sciences, it's also true in our biology. We're all born very uniquely with a certain amount of genetic information, DNA information, and most of that DNA information doesn't really change. And what happens is it's your environment. There's a whole field of science called epigenetics, which means how much of an impact will your environment have on you. And epigenetic is responsible for 80% of what you're doing in today's world. So, for example, if we look at the whole biohacking thing, then wearing blue light blocking glasses and watching television, or going into a sauna giving yourself heat stress, or jumping into an ice bath giving yourself cold stress, that environment will actually trigger certain resilient and longevity genes within you, which you might not get in like a comfortable environment like this. Smell, taste, people's energy. Max and me, we connect so well because somewhere or the other our energetic fields are matching. But you could also walk into a room where you probably never have met that person, and the person hasn't said anything to you, but you already feel that you cannot be friends with them. And that's because your heart has a electromagnetic field which can sense the environment. So what I'm trying to tell everyone is your environment is really important. We know that it is important in health, but it's also important in your workplace. So one of the things that you can ask yourself today is, what kind of an environment am I in, and what can I do to make this environment more favorable? So I'll let Max answer the, what can people do to make this much favorable? What can managers do, for example?
I'm going back always to the basics. And
Mhm.
people find it sometimes annoying. They say, "Yeah, but we know, we heard about it." I said, "Okay, hearing about something that this is one thing, but to know about it really." And I mean, you should go back, and this is what I would like to ask you: really, go back to the roots and enhance your self knowledge to the highest level. So this is the first thing, because if I have this self awareness and I will be conscious about my personal talents, I mean, strengths, weaknesses, and so on. We don't call them strengths and weaknesses. This is interesting.
Mhm.
We are saying you don't have strengths and weaknesses born with you. We have talents and non talents. And if you build up on your talents, so you will produce strengths. But many people, what they do, and this is basically the mistake, they will be depending on their non talents. And so they are producing all the time
Mhm.
weaknesses. So can you imagine a guy who is not willing to work with details? He doesn't like it, but gets a job and all the time he has to do with fact-based, detail-oriented work. After a while, he tries to do that because this is his living. This
Mhm.
is his salary and so on. But it will make him after a while sick,
Correct.
for sure. Or a person who he's not is a bit shy, doesn't want to show up in a group, talking or holding presentations and so on. After a while, you can learn it, but it costs you a lot of energy because this is an adaptation. So this is about consciousness. And once I have this very high level of self knowledge, self awareness, then I can accept myself. And this is a key point. Only when I accepted myself, I can start to learn more about you, about my colleagues, about my employees, in order to accept them.
Okay.
These are the 4 steps.
So basically what I'm hearing is, I'll paraphrase it. If you're in conflict with yourself because you don't understand certain aspects of your own self, and you're always trying to either compare yourself or trying to do something else which is not naturally good for you, yes, you can do it, but it'll be a struggle all your life. And what happens with struggle comes frustration, comes stress, and it turns down parts of your brain that are more optimistic. And one of the other things that came out from that study was, optimistic people can live up to 7 years longer than non-optimistic people. So your lens on the world changes, and your lens on yourself changes, because now you think that you're working really hard and you're not getting there, so therefore the problem is you.
Yeah,
But the problem is not you. You've not just The problem is that you haven't given the right tool to explore what you're really good at and then use that. So I think it's amazing if all teams, if all companies could, and I'll give you guys a personal example. In biohacking, I had an employee, and this guy was a star in certain things that he did, but I made a mistake. He was very introverted. I made a mistake of telling him, can you deal with a few clients? 2 weeks later, he sent me his resignation, saying that, I'm so sorry, this is something that I cannot do. And I was telling him, why didn't you talk to me? He's like, you know that I'm introverted. This is too hectic for me. And that's the time I realized, I still work with him, by the way, that certain people, like, I need to invest more time and energy in understanding my employee, because then using his unique skill set, using his unique talent, using his unique gifts in a certain way, I can, as a leader, it's my responsibility to show them the direction and put them in some place that they enjoy.
I love it. Love it what you're saying.
Yeah.
And absolutely, this mindset we should need. We
Okay.
should need.
And I think to get people this mindset, we need, and good thing is that we live in a society right now where data is so easily accessible, and we have more ways of finding the psychology of someone, their talents, their strengths. So we need more ways to bring this information to people. And that's where I want you to tell us about You Are More. and you are more coaching and all of that. Because just before this, we were going through a extensive report. Max was telling me, he sent me a couple of questionnaires from the inner metrics profiling assessment. And with that, I could exactly see what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what I should focus on, what are my motivators, what are my drivers, and a big list of no nos, which Max was explaining to me. And when you're equipped with information like this at a managerial level or at an employee level, then you have a very sharp intellect. Your intellect will already start being curious and start to explore those dimensions of you, which will make you a star performer. But again, let's go back to You Are More. Can you tell us about the whole You Are More?
Okay, Yeah More is a brand that I have established. It's also a book that has been published in Europe, became a bestseller, but this is not the point. Why it became a bestseller, I think that was 2014. And I could address some topics that managers had in their mind at that time, and it gave them comfort. It gave them a lot safety. And this is basically, You Are More is not about being bigger, wealthier, more successful. So nothing about this. You are more means that you within you have much more than you can imagine, and I showing my clients a very simple way, basically, how to get to the point based on self knowledge, using their own strengths, capacities, and what you said before, very correctly, this is to explore much more, to identify uh, hidden values within you, and this is what we practice. Then we practice, and this is so simple. And last week we had just a chat as friends, and then we were talking about many different things. And you said that, um, yeah, basically change is simple. So people wants to do a lot,
Mhm.
but changes are often very simple. And this is what I can state as well. So this is when you have the right information. That's why this word, I love it. Look, we are working with a lot data. I believe in data because data is objective. It brings objectivity to the table. This is what a manager can use in seeing and talking to the employee and saying, okay, here I can see. Can you confirm? Yeah, and they will say, yeah, sure, 100%. So then we can this employee from you,
Yeah.
this colleague. I don't know how many years before should have said, but yeah, look here, you can see this the data
Mhm.
about myself. I am not this guy, and said, oh, okay, sorry for that. You know what I mean? What we are doing is basically blind driving.
Yeah.
This is what most of the people do: blind driving in their own lives, and also driving companies like this. And this is the huge problem. So if I'm having the data, out of this data, I can create information. Out of this information, we get knowledge. And you know what happens when knowledge meets experience? This is wisdom.
This is profound. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what we would need. So You Are More is focusing basically on the very basics. We start here, and independently of your current status in life, of your current career position, everybody needs it when you didn't have it before. And then based on this, you can build it up, and you will see that small changes like fine tuning will give you amazing power. Yeah,
Mhm.
I can talk about power because we're talking about energy that we can deliberate. So this is what we have. So yeah, this is in a nutshell You Are More, and this is what you can do with individuals and also with organizations, with teams, because we see the team report, we see the team dynamics. Dynamic is a very important word because we have certain dynamics on the street.
Mhm.
We have certain dynamics in an organization. We have dynamics, and the dynamic can change, vary from day to day. And this is what we should be aware of. Absolutely.
Great. I think there's also bigger hopes with a lot of after listening to the conversation with Tom Bellew on AI coming in,
Mm.
because now there, do you think AI will be able to do the next set of recruitments and gather data about like the person and give us some sort of an information, like would, or it'll take some time? Like my question basically is, with the whole AI coming in, do you think us becoming better leaders, better employees, having more productivity in the organization?
I believe very much in AI. So my company were already working on AI solution,
Oh, that's cool.
which is really something I hope so very sexy and very very useful. And so I believe in the topic. I believe in the technology and everything. What I don't believe in is the huge expectation
Hmm.
toward AI. I think that AI will change a lot, has already changed a lot, but the change will only happen when it triggers something within you.
Hmm.
So the individual will always have a certain relation to AI, and if you don't use it, let's say, the right way, and I can't tell you how because this is what we don't know
Yep.
at the
We
moment.
don't know.
Since many things are at the moment absolutely just in the future. But when the people we use it or misuse this technology, then the technology will hit us.
Hmm.
It will hit back. I'm very afraid of the consequences because did you see the movie Her?
No, I haven't.
Watch this, please. Watch the movie Her. You can find it on Netflix. This is about a man, in nutshell, is a man who is falling in love with a chatbot,
Okay.
and
Oh, it's funny
this
because
is her.
in doing some of this AI research, I came across, I was looking for like autonomous AI agents, and I landed up on one website. I can share it with you guys in the show notes. And basically, there's a chatbot, which on the website, it says, if you're lonely, then here's your chatbot friend.
Oh, whoa, whoa.
And you can share your emotions with the chatbot. It seems like a person. And what was surprising was that if you have your new Apple Vision Pro glasses, which are augmented reality and
Oh,
virtual reality, you can see them right in front of you.
oh yeah.
And this is
I mean,
like,
in this movie, they have sex.
okay.
They have sex with each other. So it's very very frightening. So
Hmm.
somehow, and also very at the moment, just like, wow, what they're talking about. But this is reality. Very soon, it will be reality, and that's why I'm very, very, very afraid of this. Because yeah, technology can give you a solution. For example, if you are alone, we know about people they suffer very deep depression, and they are very close to commit suicide. Certainly these people, when they're not able to talk to other people about this problem, a chatbot or
Hmm.
something, that they can release this pain and so on, could be absolutely beneficial. But this is not the solution, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? So what disturbs me heavily in our modern life is that we always find and redefine, old structures, put it into the very, very high into the technology level. And this is as a tool, as a device, as a gadget, as a something in your hand, certainly tangible.
Yeah.
You can play with that, but that didn't solve anything.
Hmm.
And when you have a look now at the current statistics, for example, what mobile phones doing with youngsters, with
Hmm.
young people, they don't have this control. Then this is a huge problem. So can you imagine what will happen when you shouldn't move out of your home because you have everything. You
Yeah.
put on these glasses and you have everything. You have huge presentations. You can have sex. You can have whatever. I think this is, for me. Sorry for that. This is sick.
Yeah.
The only thing what I can imagine, and this is what we are working on, to bring something to the table which is coming from real life. So we would like combine the real feelings and the real moment with people,
Hmm.
or within people, with a, a let's say a personal coach. You
Hmm.
know, but this personal coach will be you, and this is important because AI makes it possible. I won't tell more about it right
Yeah. We'll
now,
keep it
but
like a secret.
this is which is possible, that we don't use a different third party application or device or something. It will be you,
Mhm.
and you will solve your own problems,
Yeah. I
and
think
and
the
that makes the thing very interesting.
I think the only solution, AI is one tool, like you said, and there have been many tools, but the only solution is transformation of the person.
Absolutely.
And this will only come from learning, interacting, and engaging with your environment. And for this, you have to, of course, have learn better things, engage be in environments that are supportive, be with people who are supportive, who are looking. towards a growth of the individual.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times when we're looking at bigger companies, if you're working with Google and Facebook and Microsoft, maybe they have certain procedures in place which looks at the growth of the employee. But the reality is most places around the world are looking at the growth of the business, the profitability of the business, and the employee, their skills, their passions, their talents are often ignored. And this is why we also see, I can talk about Dubai, that a lot of people, and I know, like, it's a very good thing, like we're from different generations and we can, talk about each other's experiences. I know for sure in Max's generation, it would be normal to work in a company for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years even. But in today's generation, especially in these fast moving places, people are jumping from one position to the other position. So the ability to retain employees are nearly lost. And, what are your thoughts? Why is that happening? Why do people not able to stick to?
Mm, Many different factors. One important factor is that what we can see worldwide is that we tested in the last couple of years over 6 million people.
Mhm.
So we have a quite a benchmark, So
Yeah, when I saw that number, I first thought I was reading it wrong. I thought, is it 600,000 or six?
no, we have 6 million
Okay.
reports in the day, so we can prove it. So this is
Yeah.
nothing but, and so what we can see is that the individualistic value is becoming more and more important in many societies. What does it mean being individualistic? That you are for freedom, you are for independence, you are for autonomy, you are not willing to be managed. Okay, you don't let other people managing you. So when I'm saying that, it's clear that this is, for example, one of the key reasons for having so many single persons. They don't find a real partner
Mhm.
for their lives because they are very much the main passion what they have is freedom. Being free, being free of everything is certainly either not possible or you can make it real, but then at the end you will suffer.
Mhm.
And I'm just telling you one very, very sad statistic. Well, this is not a statistic. This is a future prognosis of the World Health Organization. They're saying that you told about 2050. They said that in 2030, the new pandemic in the world we will call loneliness,
Loneliness. Yeah.
loneliness. So this is again back to
Mhm.
the point connections. So this is individualism, but I can see, and because the people are very individual, they don't have any fears more to move around in the world, and they have the borderless world, when you can travel, work in different places, and so on. So for employees, for employers, it is very difficult to find a way how to motivate people to stay with them. But I'm telling you, even the younger generation, this is what I can see, that loyalty means something different. They are loyal to their own values, not to the brand that they're working for. But as a manager, you have an easy job when you know them, understand them, and give them what they will. And this is, for example, home office in many cases. Just a very simple thing.
Or
And
remote working.
for remote working, but this is what people now we are getting back to the original pre-COVID discussion. Should we let people to work from home or should we come to the office again? Ridiculous, ridiculous. We can know that this is personality. This is based on personality. So I should know you, I should know him, her, and so on. And based on this information, decide what type of work style would be good for you. So this is really ridiculous how blind we are driving again to this metaphor. And the third thing what I can see is that we try to create our identity, and the younger generations nowadays for sure, between your digital and analog reality.
Mhm.
And this is very heavy. If you see your friends on Insta posting, whatever, how successful they are, which is not true, how but
80% of it
which
is not true.
yeah, you know what I mean. So, and just look around the street, what type of pictures people are taking from themselves. They're going like this ways in the street, and then looking at something nice and then staying hey, wow, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
and this is fake. We are living in a fake world. And fake doesn't mean that is it not true. Fake means that it doesn't have any real value. And this is the problem. So if people see that they work for an enterprise and this enterprise doesn't show any value to the world, for example, new generation, my kids, they're 18, 23, and they're looking for something which makes sense for them for the future, so they're not willing to work for an enterprise just because they have a nice label, a nice brand and so on. So this is about what you, dear enterprise, contribute to the world, to the future. So many different things came in the last years as a topic newly to the table, and most of the enterprises are not prepared for that.
Okay.
They are prepared for making money
Yeah.
still.
Okay, but I also see a good future where we can more and more companies will face this problem where people can start their own businesses, people can be in remote countries, and to get all of them engaged in the same way, they will have to take some steps. And these are the steps that we can leverage with data. But I really like what you said. Freedom pushed too far can bring suffering.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize this, especially in the younger generation. But when we look at even when we look at our lives, I always like to tell people that for every creature on the planet, nature has drawn two lines. There's a top line and a bottom line, and the creature has to exist in this. So you look at cheetahs, which die quite often out of hunger. They have food all around them, but they cannot eat it. They are limited by nature on what they can eat. You know, Similar examples in the animal kingdom all over. But human being, which is at the top of evolution, is the only creature where nature has a bottom line, but there's no top line. But what we keep on doing is we like to create this top line for ourselves. You're not limited by anything. You can, like he said, you are more, you can do so much more. But we're like that bird who for years has been in a cage, and every day someone comes and gives it food or like water. And one day when the cage door opens, the bird decides to stay there because it's more comfortable. So,
Let me please add something to that. We know it from biology. That's why I love this metaphor, because we know it from biology. Things without growing are dying. So we need growth. This is for sure. You need growth, but not monetary.
mhm,
And so not the rest is important. The quality is important.
mhm.
So if you're talking about growth, many people are, yeah, but I'm very sick of hearing that, I'm tired of. Yeah, but said, yeah, but you want to have a better quality in
Of life.
life quality and so on. And then the second thing is that that's so important about you said this thought is basically people doesn't see their own borders. So this is absolutely just go up. On the other hand, this is what I realized. That was the key insight, that a high living standard is not equal to life quality.
Mhm. It's like you said, right? All our lives you waste so much time to, okay, I'm going to study and I'm going to get a good degree, and university takes a lot of your years. Then you're looking for a good job, then you're looking for a better job, then you're looking for a better paid job, then you're looking for your marriage, and then you're looking for your kids. Life keeps you engaged in a lot of things, thinking that, okay, now for me to have that quality of life or to be that happy, I need to engage in another set of tasks. But what is really true is not that way, because even research shows us that it used to be $30,000, but now it's $75,000. Above $75,000, where you meet your basic needs per year and you're able to go on one vacation and you're able to buy the car, your happiness doesn't increase. That's when people hit their midlife crisis and they go for more meaning, or they go for more growth, or they go for more impact, because money is a great facilitator for a lot of things, but it doesn't bring you happiness. When we look at it in Dubai, like he said, someone might take a very nice picture in front of Burj Khalifa, but if you look at 90% of the people walking on the street, looks like they're walking to their death grave. Their faces are like this, they're not smiling, and this happens in most multi metropolitan cities like New York and London. But you look at all of them, they have great jobs, they have great cars, everything is great, but still their experience of life and the quality of life isn't that great. They might have everything, but their experience, are they experiencing life the same way
Yeah.
as someone else? No. And that needs to change. And I think the more awareness we can bring to people, and this can start with companies and go, I would even say, go on to governments, and it should be a part of the national strategy itself, that how can we have more fulfilled people, more people who are not stressed all the time thinking about work. There needs to be work life balance. And I think you guys saw it in Europe, and what you know with evolution we learn from our mistakes, we learn from what we have seen. That's why case studies are so important. And I think if you can bring your experience into this part of the world and share it with everyone, we will be a few steps ahead. And that's what it takes. You might not be able to avoid the problem completely, but if you have a like if you and me start running, and I tell you, like, I'm going to give you a 20-second head start, and if you're just running 100 meters, like, it's you know I'll try my best, but I will not be able to catch up to you. And that's your problems. So problems, frustrations. So invest in finding ways, whether you're using AI or you're using Google, or you're looking at books. By the way, this is one of Max's book, The Six Pillars to Life, what you really need for well-being and happiness. So things like this, coaches, invest in something that will give you that head start. What do you think?
I hope so. I hope so that we are right. I mean, we need a change of paradigm for sure.
Hmm.
And now we have amazing role models like him, young people. They
Thank you.
live now. You walk the talk, and this is what I. That was the first what I love that you walk the talk, and this is very important because I see many other people that are talking about different stuff, but their life is
Hmm.
something else. So I hope very much that we can do a real change. And do you know what we need for that? Bravery. So we
Mm.
need brave people, because people have fears. They have fears losing their jobs, don't have enough salary, and so on. And fear works like a muscle. So we
Mhm.
can train it. We can
Okay.
train it. If you couldn't train it, then you won't have stuntman. You wouldn't have
Hmm.
fire. How do you call that? Fireworkers. No?
Yeah.
So you can train it. You can train it. Willpower. You can train. So there are many things, small changes, how you can trigger in your brain something that lets you to understand. Here, this is my moment. This is my
Mhm.
entrance to the new me.
Okay. And amazing. We can talk for hours and hours, and probably we'll do a second part of this podcast where I'll actually go through the six pillars. And some of these pillars are really interesting, and we can focus on
Mm.
that on the next podcast. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom with us. And I hope everyone who's listening, you guys got some good nuggets to note down. You know, ask your manager on how can you guys get connected more easily. Even if you don't want to go to your manager, find ways to get connected to your fellow colleagues, learn a few things about them, surprise them with something. That's how it starts building up. It's one of those butterfly effects. You just start, and then you see it keeps on, or the domino effect rather. Make a very small step, and then you'll see the impact will be quite a lot. And do that, invest in yourself, read a little bit more, be more curious, know that you don't have that top line, which doesn't mean that you keep pushing yourself, which just means that you're able to grow more, learn more, be more. And that comes back to his website, youaremore.ae, correct?
Yeah, you're more dots.
You are. I love that title. I think my dad would love that title because he's always talking about, like, how can you be more, and yeah.
Yeah.
So, but before I let you go, my one question to you is, let's say we had a time machine. We could fly back in time, and you could go back to
Back.
your younger self
Mhm.
and give yourself one piece of advice. What would that be?
It would be a question. I would ask myself, do you know how to eat an elephant? And the answer is bite by bite.
Mhm.
Don't run ahead. So we have enough time in life, but this time you should spend very careful and feel with value. So that's why bite by bite.
Bite by
Not
bite.
slowly. You have to keep the rhythm,
Mhm.
but you have to be sure that you get to the point where you are consequent, you are conscious, and you are self-aware.
Amazing. So, young people who are listening out there, or even older people, be conscious, be consistent, and do things bite by bite, which means do things at a pace, but don't go out and do everything at once. Do it not slowly, bite by bite. That's something that we will use for our next podcast series. How do you do things bite by bite? Max, thank you so much for coming. We've mentioned one of your websites, which is yourmore.ae. Is there any other links or any other website where people can know more about you? Or this is good?
No, in English you can find this. I really recommend it just to read, and then you will know much more about the approach, how we are working with enterprises, also for individuals. On this website, you have as an individual probably the opportunity to fill in a profile and get a video serial to that, which is for your self-awareness. Very good.
Oh,
So
that's great.
you can book via the website immediately a profile and a video serial to that, so which explains you behavior and your motivation. It's a big advantage. Enterprises can look for other solutions, and yeah, on Insta, I started for some months ago to produce more content. I didn't have time for that, but I will do, and I would like to build up a community with friends together like you, and just to share more information on that if you like it. So I would be happy if you would follow me.
Amazing. We'll put the links on the show notes so you can follow Max and you'll have, you know, I would next time I would highly recommend we do. What do you think? We do another podcast on the six pillars of life.
Would be an honor.
Okay, the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
time you're here.
A
Okay,
book
so
you will find on Amazon.com.
okay,
And you buy it. So
Amazon.com, the six pillars of life. Here's the book. And thank you, Max, for all the things you're doing, for all the teams you've empowered, for all the athletes you've coached. Thank you so much. And this is me, CJ, your host, signing out of the Ship with CJ podcast. Everyone, have a great day, a great week, a great lifetime ahead of you. You know why? Because you're more. You can do more. Ciao.